Welcome to this video. In my previous video, I taught you how to graph horizontal and vertical lines given the equation of the line. In this video, we will learn how to graph linear equations that are being given in slope-intercept form. So let's get started. We're going to be using the equation in this form to identify m, our slope, and b, our y-intercept. We always start by plotting our y-intercept first. Then we can use our slope to find points to the left or right of the y-intercept. Lastly, after we have two or more points, we can connect them in a straight line, making sure we put an arrow through each line indicating that the line extends infinitely in both directions. Make sure as you do this that if the slope is positive, the line goes up from left to right, and if the slope is negative, the line is going down as you move from left to right. Let's do an example. In the first example, we have y is equal to negative 2x plus 4. So remember, the first thing we do is we identify our y-intercept and our slope. The y-intercept is positive 4, and our slope is negative 2. Remember, the y-intercept is actually an ordered pair, so it's actually the point 0, 4. So let's graph our y-intercept. The y-intercept goes right here. So how do we get more points for our graph? Well, in order to do that, we have to use the slope. Remember, slope is the change in y over the change in x, or rise over run. So we have negative 2, or we can write it as negative 2 over 1. That means, starting from this point, I need to go down 2 units and over 1 unit. That gives me this point right here. I can continue this process going down 2 and to the right 1 to get more points on the line. What if I wanted points on the other side? Well, what I could do is I could go up 2 units and then to the left being negative, 1 unit. Notice all of these form a straight line. So I can use a line to connect them. And then remember, we always draw arrows at either end indicating that this line extends infinitely in both directions. A good practice to get in the habit of doing is to label your line. At the end of this section, we'll be graphing multiple lines on the same Cartesian plane. So to keep those straight, it's a good idea to get into the habit of labeling each line. Let's do another example. Our y-intercept here is negative 1, which is really the ordered pair, remember, 0, negative 1. Let's plot our y-intercept. The y-intercept goes right here. Our slope is 3 over 4. Notice that the slope is positive, so we should be going up as we move from left to right. Again, remember the definition of slope is rise over run. So we need to go up 3 units, and then we need to go to the right 4 units. It looks like we can't fit any more points to the right of this. But what if I wanted to go the other direction? Well, I could go down 3 units, and then I could go to the left 3 units, and that would give me another point. Generally speaking, you want to have as many different points as you can on a graph, and you really want to get in the habit of it extending all the way across the graph in both directions. And the reason for this, as you'll see as we move into later sections, is that in the very end of this section, we're going to be finding the intersection of 2 lines. And so if your line doesn't extend all the way across the graph, you might not be able to see the intersection of the 2 lines. Again, it's a good habit to get into the practice of labeling this line, so I'll do that. Let's do a few more examples. Okay, now we have y equals 4x. What's the y-intercept here? Well, if I wanted to, I could write 4x plus 0. So that means my y-intercept is 0, 0. That means that this is intersecting at the origin. I'm going to erase this and rewrite it because it looks kind of funny. So this is 0, 0. And then what's our slope? Well, our slope is 4. Remember, we can rewrite that as 4 over 1. So my rise is 4 units and my run is 1 unit. So I can go up 4 and then to the right 1. I could also go down 4 and then to the left 1. As I do that, I have this line right here And again, as we do this, let me just start over here. Oh, sorry. There we go. And as we do this, we want our line to extend as far as possible in both directions. It's a little bit difficult to do sometimes with this technology. There we go. So make sure you're drawing arrows at either end, and again, that it extends the whole way across the graph. And again, it's a good idea to get into the practice of labeling your line so that, again, when you have multiple graphs on the same line, you can tell them apart. Let's do a few more examples. Here, what is our y-intercept? Well, remember, you have y is equal to mx plus b. If you wanted to, you could rewrite this equation as y equals 0x plus negative 1. So that means my y-intercept is negative 1, which is really the ordered pair 0, negative 1, and our slope is 0. Let's see if we can graph this line. Well, here's my y-intercept, and if I have a slope of 0, that means we have a horizontal line. So my line looks like this. Another way you could have approached this problem is to recognize that this is the equation of a horizontal line, and then simply realize, where is y equal to negative 1? Well, it's equal to negative 1 at all of these different points. That would be another way to think about the same problem. Okay, let's do a few more examples. Y-intercept here is negative 3. The slope is negative 1/2. Again, I invite you to pause this video, see if you can graph these next two problems without me, then unpause the video and see if you were correct. So my y-intercept is negative 3, so that's going to be right there. Again, it's really an ordered pair. And then my slope is negative 1/2. So that means I'm going to go down 1 and over 2. Down 1 and over 2. But what if I want some points on the other side? Well, the other way to do that would be to go up 1, which is a positive direction, and then left 2, which is a negative direction. So I can extend the pattern in that direction as well. Then at the end, remember, we connect all of these points in a straight line and draw our arrows. And then again, it's a good practice to get in the habit of labeling our graph. So this is the graph of the line y equals negative 1/2 x minus 3. Let's do another example. Our y-intercept is negative 1, and our slope, even though you can't see the number there, is really negative 1 as well. So we start at negative 1, and again, you can always remind yourself that the y-intercept is really an ordered pair. Then our slope is negative 1. Well, that's really negative 1 over 1. So that means I'm going down 1 and over 1. Down 1 and over 1. I continue the pattern. I can go in the other direction by going up 1 and to the left 1. I can connect all of these all of these points into a line, and then I can go and label my graph. So hopefully that was enough examples to get you comfortable with this. Go ahead and start your homework and practice graphing lines.